All right. Good morning. I'm driving to work. I decided to dress up today. No particular reason. Some days I just like dressing up. Even as a child, I would love dressing up. I remember going to Christian Life. Back then it was called Christian Life Assembly, Christian Life Church, and being very, very little, younger than 4, and being so excited every Sunday to go up to Pastor Steve Brown and say, "Look, I'm wearing a tie, just a necktie, just like you." And I will never forget that. And it was always inspired because he was very gracious, and he would always approve. So I still to this day like dressing up, and there's no particular reason. At my work, this is not necessarily this formal, but I put on the necktie and the button-up shirt and the jacket just because it makes me feel productive sometimes. I want to tell you a story. When I was working in children's ministry years ago at a different church than the one I was just talking about, and a different church than I attend now, I gained a lot of experience with the inner workings of the building that I was in, and I would run wires and cords and for lights and sounds and all kinds of things, and trying to make the atmosphere better for children. And I remember one particular time I went home and was talking to my parents and was saying everything I was doing, and I remember my dad looking at me, and he got a little frustrated. And I at the time I didn't understand why, and now I certainly do. And he reminded me that I am not an electrician. I probably was not even 17 years old at the time. I'm 16 or 17. And he reminded me that I am not an electrician. And so I need to be very careful. Now, looking back, I realize that was spoken in love and protection, and because electricity can be a very dangerous thing when you don't know what you're doing. Years later, I gained more skills and experience. I'm still not an electrician, but I at least know one simple truth. Unfortunately, this is the kind of truth that you have to learn firsthand and through what is not always a comfortable experience. And that is that when you go to adjust or maintain anything with electricity, you have to cut the power off first. You have to cut the power off first. And how does one learn this? Well, you learn this by not cutting the power off first and thinking that you can bypass this little nugget of truth and wisdom. And you learn very quickly that when electricity goes through your body, you do what the electricity has instructed you to do. You don't get to say, "Mr. Electricity, I no longer am letting you control me at this moment. I have left you running, and you don't get to say so." You are stuck when you touch the wrong spot, and the current starts flowing through you instead of working for you. You are stuck. At that moment, it is too late to say, "I don't like this anymore. I don't want this electricity controlling me. I want to be in charge of it." You can want that, and you will want that. But in that moment, it's a little late to say, to implement that when it is already surging through you, even small voltage. So a few years ago, I was adjusting a light switch at my previous residence, and on one wall there was a 3-switch plank, 3 light switches, and the order of the switches they were all in the wrong spot. The one on the right controlled the room on the left, the one in the middle controlled the room on the right, and the one on the left didn't do anything because we didn't have a ceiling fan, and it was for the ceiling fan in the room on the left. So everything was all messed up. So I said, I'm just going to switch the outlets, just switch them around rather than get in there. But I was going to be smart, supposedly, and rather than switch the wiring and everything and leave the outlets in place, which wouldn't have made much sense, I just said, I'll just flip the outlets around. No problem. Do you think I went and cut the breaker off first? No, I said, I'm not going to touch anything. I'm just switching A and B and C and B. And yeah, that was a mistake because it only took one slight misstep, miscalculation to realize that I shouldn't have done that. So now I'm at my new house and I realize that I do not like in my garage the way that the outlets, the light switches are set up out towards the garage. One controls on the inside of the house controls the inside garage light, and inside the garage controls the outside garage lights. That might make sense to some degree, but I actually put a motion light inside my garage. So I want that to just kind of stay on all the time. And somehow that switch gets toggled off inside the house, and then you go out in the garage expecting it to work, and it's not going to work. But then sometimes I want to be able to control, I want to easily be able to turn on and off the lights outside of the garage where there's cars or in the driveway for people that might be visiting. And I would have to actually open up the garage and go out there and flip that on or off. So for convenience sake, I would like to switch the two. They're right there on the same stud, just on opposite sides of the wall. Guess what Aaron's going to do this time? I'm going to make sure that the power is cut off. Now, what does this have to do with life? Too many times we want to go make personal changes. I have people tell me, I want to see change. I want to see adjustment. I want to see flaws diminishing and productivity and improvement growing. And so I have to decide, am I going to make personal change? And here's what I am learning. I have not mastered it yet. You cannot continue. It's very difficult to change when you're still stuck in the same flow. When the current is telling you what to do and the flow is going, you are in the flow going, it is very hard to make personal change. So let me explain what I'm talking about. If I want to change what time I get up in the morning, my nightly routine has to change. Now, I have 2 children. One of them is now 3 children. One of them is 13 and only with me half the time. But I have 2 children that are with me permanently, and one is 2 and one is 5 months old today. Happy birthday, baby girl! 5 months today. And if I want to be able to get up earlier in the morning, I have to be willing to do one of 2 things. Either put myself to bed earlier in the evening, which I don't always choose to do, or face the consequence of being tired. I can't just go, okay, I'm going to wake up early, I'm going to go to bed late, and then get mad that I'm tired in the morning because I have chosen to let the current drive me and don't like the consequences. That's like not turning the electricity off and then getting mad when you get shocked. If we want to make personal change, you have to adjust the current. You have to say, okay, I'm going to prepare by powering down the element over here so that I can navigate and tweak, not twerk, Lord no, you don't want that. Tweak the elements over here and perform maintenance. If you keep the power going full speed and you keep the power going, you're not going to be able to make the change, or it's going to be very difficult. So whatever that means in your life, in whatever situation, if I want to become a better software developer, I have to implement and stop doing the things that were not good before, not best practice, and implement the things that are best practice. I can't keep going with the flow. And sometimes you have to go in and change what you were doing before, even in older code, to make it work so that it's set up to help you function better with your newer, better, improved coding styles. So again, if you want to make change in your life, if I want to make change in my life, and I'm speaking out of conviction right now, I have to adjust the flow. I have to adjust the current. I can't just keep things going full on and expect to be able to make modifications, because when the current is flowing through you, you do what the current says. You don't get in that moment to say, you know what, I'm not going to be a conduit for this electricity right now. You are being controlled in that moment. So you have to turn the power off before you make your adjustments. Somewhere in there, there's some wisdom. Somewhere in there, there's some truth. Maybe it's in your worship life. You want to elevate how you worship God. You can't worship God the same way and say, but God, I want to change how I worship you. Sometimes you have to implement the new steps, and you have to prepare for it. Let's say you're, like I mentioned, waking up earlier in the mornings. For me, that is a challenge. And if I'm going to do that, I have to do it. I have to not lay in bed after the alarm clock goes off and go, yeah, I'm just going to absorb 2 or 3 more minutes. So this morning, when the alarm clock went off, I said, I'm getting up right now. And I did it. But I had to do it before the effects started happening, before the current got a hold of me. Because if I waited 15 more minutes, I don't get to complain that I'm running late, because I'm going with that flow. So 2 things here. Make sure you cut off the electricity before you touch it. And if you're going to make personal change, prepare and adjust the flow so that you're not stuck in the same habits and the same patterns in order to make your personal change. God bless you. This has been Aaron Tells a Story, part 6, I believe it is. Power Down.